Okay, these Gokus have got to stop picking fights with guys in capes.
Pitting Saiyan against Viltrumite is fascinating. Among the many similarities, 5 specific categories stand out.
Starting with speed. Bardock is much faster, given his power level matched Goku dodging asteroids at 9.5 trillion times light speed, much higher than the Viltrumite's fastest speed. Add on the 50 times multiplier from Super Saiyan and it's a huge difference.
Right, Bardock clearly has the speed advantage, but strength and durability are another story.
Though it doesn't seem like it at first, Bardock scales to King Veggie, who wrecked 3 planets at once, and Omni-Man only smashed 1. But given how big that one planet was, the numbers are actually pretty similar. Until we factor in the Super Saiyan boost, right?
Well, there's a catch. A major plot point in Invincible involves the coalition of planets admitting that their weapons cannot hurt Viltrumites.
So, when their ship's cannon obliterated this gigantic solar disk, it highlighted just how tough the Viltrumites really are.
This disk completely blocked the sunlight and heat between a planet and its star. And this is no ordinary planet. Its size and density are so high that its inhabitants are as strong as Viltrumites just due to living in its natural gravity. To fully block the light to such a planet and remain in consistent orbit, the disk would need to be positioned at its L1 point, the spot that creates an uninterrupted view between sun and satellite, and the disk itself must be about half the diameter of the star in question. This means the scaling of the disk puts it at 3 septillion tons.
That's 24 zeros!
Which makes Omni-Man over 11,000 times stronger than base Bardock.
Not even the Great Ape or Super Saiyan forms could make up that difference. So strength goes to Nolan.
Still, numbers aren't everything. As far as versatility in combat goes, neither had one distinct advantage that could win outright.
Omni-Man survives in space for much longer, but Bardock barely squeaks out the edge here thanks to his ranged versatility with key attacks and, of course, Super Saiyan.
Okay, let's address the Super Saiyan Bardock thing. It's perfectly fair to question whether or not the form should be in this comparison at all. However, even with the form included, Nolan still takes this, especially when it comes to our last 2 categories, experience and stamina.
Yep, Omni-Man's been around a lot longer than Bardock, over 2,000 years, and even with Super Saiyan, Bardock's no master of the form.
And without that mastery, the form drains the user's energies at an increased rate. Which brings us to what may be Omni-Man's most surprising advantage.
Those weird smart atoms.
Saiyans like Bardock can fight for days on end, but only for so long. Bardock possesses a limited pool of ki, which only depletes faster when using super forms like the Great Ape. In contrast, Omni-Man's biology prevents him from tiring in most cases, letting him travel across whole galaxies for weeks non-stop. And his smart atoms adjust to counter whatever physical strain he's subjected to.
Bardock's crazy speed and power made him a real challenge.
But Nolan's strength, experience, and sheer endurance presented an unstoppable and unshakable force that would inevitably land the killing blow.
When push came to shove, Omni-Man raised the bar. Duck.
The winner is Omni-Man.
KO! Giorno never had the makings of a varsity death battle winner.
This was an absolutely fascinating matchup and far from an easy call.
Joker versus base gold experience wasn't close though.
Sure, Giorno's powers threw Joker for a loop, but Joker and his personas were millions of times faster and could take on universe busters.
And there was no doubt Joker could see Giorno's stand, considering he could spot similar beings like shadows.
Add in the versatility of Joker's hundreds of personas, and Giorno could get quickly overwhelmed.
But that's where Requiem came in, and the game changed.
With its ability to nullify any action taken against it, even ones that can affect entire universes, Joker's regular arsenal was rendered moot.
Remember, Requiem could act independently of time, so Joker wouldn't be able to avoid Requiem's ability. He'd have to beat it outright.
Take when the Phantom Thieves faced Maruki. The group couldn't resist the reality warping effects of his powers. He even had an ability that nullified actions against him, similar to Gold Experience Requiem.
But Joker still had an ace up his sleeve. While Requiem can reduce your willpower to 0, Joker's social links were able to recharge him.
And finally, we have Joker's almighty attacks, which could bypass reality warping defenses like the Omnipotent Orb. The perfect counter for Requiem.
And this is actually backed up in JoJo. While Requiem only has 1 appearance in the manga, it did show up in the game Eyes of Heaven.
There, it faced off against the World Over Heaven, which can overwrite reality to overpower any attack, including Requiem's return to 0. That meant an almighty attack that can bypass reality warping would have the same effect, giving Joker the option he needed to land a killing blow against Requiem's perfect defense.
Dio is such a dick, he literally ruined his own son's death battle.
Giorno was brilliant, but Joker had the versatility, experience, and almighty power for the final blow.
Giorno missed his golden opportunity and had a shell of a time. Hey, Wiz, you hear what I said? I said Giorno missed his golden opportunity and he had a shell of a time.
The winner is Joker.
This war was not an easy one to win, which might seem surprising given how the Sonic series is not afraid to show how tough its cast is, while Mario's comes across as more cartoony.
But as it turns out, Bowser had everything he needed to take Chrome Dome down. Strap in, this one's a lot, so we'll break it down into 5 categories.
First up is physical stats. Bowser pretty handedly outmatched any of Eggman's usual mechs, like the Egg Dragoon or the Death Egg Robot.
The Death Egg Robot could level cities. Bowser could punch a castle out of orbit.
The Death Egg could destroy stars, but Yoshi could match that level of power, and Bowser's strength is certainly above the green dinosaurs. Plus, while both Bowser and Eggman's tech survived black holes, Bowser's was much larger.
So, he may win stats, but this could change with their powers. With so many items and minions, that could make all that a moot point.
Aside from power-up items, both could manipulate minds, create duplicates, and alter space-time. However, Bowser had a significant edge in having access to the majority of his abilities at all times.
Yeah, Eggman can do some crazy stuff, but only across different mechs, fortresses, or space bases. Bowser's all natural. He's got all his best powers built in, and he ain't even a robot.
Meaning he wins the war of attrition. He even had counters for battle enders like the Metal Virus and Spatial Displacement Trap. Context matters for those weapons, and both backfired in the past. But more importantly, Bowser could simply reverse the effects with his transmutation magic. Conversely, most of Eggman's robots could get turned into, say, a frog or a block with no reliable way back. Bowser takes the edge in powers.
But definitely not for intelligence. Come on, you have a 4-digit IQ, Bowser? Really? That's cute. I mean, don't get me wrong. Bowser's not an idiot, usually. Just really, really clumsy. Poor fella.
Meanwhile, Eggman's an engineering genius who rarely ever gets bested by brains.
Easy dub. Now, let's talk trump cards.
As in, items so powerful they could decide the entire outcome on their own.
The Phantom Ruby was super dangerous, but specifically targets perceptions, unlike Bowser's Wonder Flower, which mucks up reality for real. The Ruby affected a whole planet, but the Wonder Flower had the power to alter the universe. Also, the Dreamstone's ability to wish anything out of existence would have no problem cleaning up Super Neo Metal Sonic or Time Eater.
Their most prized possessions was a tougher call. Together, the Chaos Emeralds can break the universe, but so can the Grand Stars. Arguably not as much given the Emerald scaling to Solaris, though Power Stars and Grand Stars are far more plentiful. Clearly, this is getting fairly abstract, and both had multiple options that could win the day instantly, so the safest bet is to call this category a tie.
Which means it's finally time to compare their armies. Eggman seems deadlier at first glance. I mean, look at all those buzzsaws and rockets. Metal Sonic's speed and power alone could solo most of the Koopa Troop, but the Eggman Empire lacked something Bowser had in spades: teamwork and loyalty.
Eggman is a notoriously terrible team player. His alliances are practically guaranteed to fall apart.
Hell, in Sonic Generations, he could barely manage working with himself.
Eggman's army is designed to be controlled by just him. To Eggman, it's harder to command those with free will, hence his rivalry with the free-natured Sonic.
Meanwhile, the Koopa Troop follows Bowser because they actually like him. They train really hard to cover each other's weak points,
giving them plenty of advantages as this war progressed, like battlefield control through King Boo's magic and Bowser Jr.'s paint. And since the Koopa Troop doesn't rely that much on technology, Sage's hacking potential had little use.
Also, secret weapon? Kamek is kinda busted, canceling Metal Sonic's power copying, stealing the Phantom Ruby, and potentially swapping the Chaos Emeralds were huge game changers.
Add on that Bowser and his army can use any Mario power-up item, and they had billions of combinations that the Eggman Empire just could not actively plan against. Even with Sage's millions of plans to take down the Titans, she thought them to be unbeatable, which Sonic proved was incorrect.
Just comparing their conquests makes it clear. The Eggman Empire took over the whole planet, but Bowser's troop conquered most of the universe.
Eggman was no pushover. His wit, power output, and ridiculous machines gave Bowser the biggest fight of his life. But the Koopa King's ludicrous strength, abilities, and united forces ultimately prevailed.
Eggman tried to poach the king, and now he's cracked and scrambled.
The winner is Bowser.
Oh, when's the next episode? This is my new favorite show. Move over, Chimp Crazy.
We broke this down into 3 categories: offense, defense, and the bizarre. Let's start with offense.
I mean, the bogus Among Us could blow up planets, not to mention moving faster than light to hit all those planets in one shot. It's kinda out there, but no Fall Guy has ever done anything like that. The crewmates clearly get the edge in offense.
Though that impressive power matters less when we look at defense.
It's crazy how much damage the Fall Guys can walk off. They survived anything their course threw at them, took hits from meteors, and most importantly, survived the Big Bang. You know, the explosion that blew the whole frickin' universe into existence? Easy edge for the bumbling beans.
We can even go a step further. Both of these creatures have demonstrated various forms of invulnerability and death negation, like how the Fall Guys could always pop back up for another round, or how the crewmates became ghosts when they die. However, only the Fall Guys had a viable counter. Only the Fall Guys could ensure that their foe stays dead.
Pac-Man, they can become Pac-Man, who, you know, eats ghosts.
Brilliant.
Which leads us to the truly bizarre stuff about both of these beanie freaks.
They could both stretch their bodies to absurd lengths, but only the Fall Guys stretch beyond the observable universe in a matter of minutes. In fact, if we take these posting times literally, that would mean the Fall Guys can stretch at speeds over a quadrillion times faster than light.
I don't know, Wiz. That feels like a bit of a stretch. Wink.
The crewmates did have plenty of answers to the Fall Guys' hijinks, like a magic pencil sword to fight off He-Man's power sword, or how they could potentially hack Digi's creations.
But the overwhelming amount of stuff that the Fall Guys have access to just dwarfs the Among Us crew's arsenal. I mean, Hadoukens, TARDIS, just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, the spaceship crew had a few deadlier weapons among them, but the Fallen Guys had too many options that could not be countered.
The crewmates may have been cunning and dangerous, but the one-track-minded Fall Guys just wouldn't go down.
Making sure the losers of this fight were no longer Among Us.
Oh no, we never found the second imposter!
Ah, damn it, I knew that stupid robot was sus!
Sigh. So embarrassing.
The winner is the Fall Guys. And me.
KO! Well, I guess Asura's wrath really is gone. But are we sure this is how it'd go? Even though Asura can blow up stars?
Asura had some amazing displays of apocalyptic destruction, but the full scope of their speed, experience, versatility, and power sheds a surprising light.
At first glance, speed seems like a shoo-in for Asura. Kratos is quick, but he never dodged a universe-crossing laser.
That doesn't mean he couldn't. Remember, as usual, we look at these characters at their peak, free from gameplay restrictions.
Yeah, we're looking at everything in canon, and Kratos fought and killed Helios, the sun god.
From the moment he's introduced, Helios is emphasized to be immensely powerful. Without Helios, darkness would shroud everything. His light was fast enough to illuminate the entire underworld while Kratos sailed through it, taking a few hours at most.
So, kinda hard to quantify, but that's consistent with the shockwaves the primordials caused that spawned the universe.
Arguments could be made for which is faster, the primordial shockwaves or Chakravartin's intergalactic lasers. Since it's so close, it's safest to assume their speeds are generally even.
But what does speed matter if you don't know how to use it? Let's cover experience. Asura lived across centuries, obviously a lot longer than Kratos.
And while Kratos eventually learned to control his rage, Asura pretty much always had that control.
So Asura easily takes experience. But when it comes to versatility, he couldn't match all the weapons and abilities Kratos had.
Sure, Asura's quite skilled and a monster at martial arts, but his fighting style mostly relies on one thing.
A whole lot of punching.
Kratos' weapons, magic, runes, relics, and even his rage gave him far more options in combat, slowing down time, healing injuries, and most importantly, multiple weapons that could drain a variety of energies, like mantra.
Yeah, when Asura loses all his mantra energy, that's it for him. So the Dropnir spears and the Blade of Olympus gave Kratos exactly what he needed: versatility, and multiple ways to finish this for good before Asura just comes crawling back out of the underworld.
If he could.
Asura's resurrections take years or whole centuries, days at best.
But all this assumes Kratos could match Asura's crazy strength. All roads lead to power, which should go to Asura, right? Look at what he can do! If this came down to who made the bigger kaboom, he'd kick Kratos' ass in 2 seconds.
But a closer examination of their feats reveals the truth.
At his peak, Asura overpowered Chakravartin, annihilating that cosmic golden god.
By measuring the dimensions of Chakravartin's body and scaling it up to match the size of this galaxy-eclipsing statue, we can determine its volume. Add in the density of gold, for good measure assuming the form is solid throughout, and its mass far exceeds not just our galaxy, but our entire observable universe.
Destroying that big golden god would need energy on par with obliterating our universe 91,000 times.
Extremely impressive and unfathomable. However, the same idea applies to Ragnarok shaking the roots of Yggdrasil.
Ragnarok is obviously a bit of a different beast than Kratos, but what really matters is what Freyr did.
Right, Freyr, a god comparable to Kratos, held back Ragnarok's power for a significant time.
So Kratos should be capable of the same level of power, or even more.
Using an official map and knowing the world tree's branches encompass all of existence, we can measure its size and volume.
And we know this map is accurate because it shows these two realms conjoined, which we see in-game.
Even if we assume the Tree of the Realms is only 1% solid, a significant lowball that Kratos should easily scale above, shaking such an incomprehensibly large structure would require enough force to destroy our universe's mass energy 9 million times over.
That's almost 100 times greater than Chakravartin's destruction. And this isn't some one-off outlier. I mean, a realm-shattering supergiant doesn't sound too different from the other Titans and Olympians Kratos defeated.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's easy to think that we never see Kratos do anything that matches Asura, but we do. Helios' speed matches Chakravartin, and Kratos outsped him. Atlas is strong enough to lift all of reality, and Kratos overpowered him. Kronos defeated the creator of the universe in a one-on-one fight, same as Asura, and Kratos killed Kronos. Add in the clear numerical comparison of Chakravartin, Ragnarok, and Yggdrasil, and Kratos takes the edge in power.
But hey, Capcom, if you give us Asura's Wrath too, we'll try this again.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Asura's the sun rises. The god of wrath was Kratos.
The winner is Kratos.
KO! God damn!
Literally. This was a nail-biter of a battle that pitted Ghost Rider's immeasurable power against Spawn's skill and versatility. Let's break this down into 4 categories.
First up, power. Divine Spawn could match God and Satan, who could create universes. Similar in scale to Ghost Rider's bouts with a lot of the powerhouses in Marvel.
But Zarathos was different. Remember, his power can match that of Mephisto and Galactus, who can threaten all of Marvel's infinite cosmic reality, far greater than any cosmos Spawn has ever affected. Even though Spawn's battled and defeated Satan in more recent comics, implying he's retained a level of power similar to his divine form, he couldn't match Zarathos in power alone.
Ghost Rider may take power, but remember, Johnny actively resists Zarathos' influence, so Spawn may have had time in the fight to learn and adapt to Ghost Rider before he went full Blue Fury.
And Spawn definitely had the edge in skill. He spent decades in military combat and is a master martial artist, whereas Johnny more so relies on his invincibility.
The ultimate dream power for a stuntman. Even with his crazy powers, Ghost Rider was a lot more direct than Spawn, pretty much entirely focused on attacking the soul.
Which doesn't bode well for his versatility. Spawn can stop time, manipulate matter, turn intangible, control minds, warp reality. The Ghost Rider had a much more limited arsenal by comparison. Spawn had a huge advantage in this category.
Though with his invincibility, way greater power, and the ability to scorch your soul to nothing, Ghost Rider could score the win through brute force, right?
Not exactly. The last piece of the puzzle is their resistances. Basically, who was harder to kill. Spawn's constant mainlining of humanity's collective sin and pain meant he could survive attacks on his soul, including the Penance Stare, just like he resisted a very similar attack from Urizen.
Best of all, remember the time he rewrote reality to undo his own inexistence?
There was nothing the Ghost Rider could do to overpower that. And that time with the lance wasn't planned, it was purely instinctual. He could replicate it any time he wanted, like in his fight with God and Satan.
So how do you put Spawn down for good? Well, you can't. At least Johnny and Zarathos couldn't.
Unlike how Ghost Rider's soul has been vulnerable to attack before, like when Danny used the penance stare to depower Johnny.
This sort of thing actually happens a lot, even in recent comics. The whole reason Johnny and Zarathos are bonded in the first place is because Zarathos' soul was manipulated by Mephisto.
And not only does Spawn have plenty of experience manipulating souls, he can replicate the effect of the penance stare itself.
And just think about that. A penance stare on Zarathos would mean he's feeling the pain from every penance stare that he's ever done. A penance squared.
The damnation stare, on the other hand, actively helped Spawn, sending him to hell where he gets a literal infinite power boost.
And it wasn't just Spawn's soul powers that had spelled trouble. He had other ways to bypass Ghost Rider's immortality too, like transmutation, rewriting reality, or just straight up stealing his powers, which has worked on multiple Ghost Riders in the past.
Giving Spawn the final edge. Zarathos was almost unbeatable, a massive power advantage, soul destruction, immortality, but Spawn could counter everything thrown at him, and was too unkillable for Zarathos' strength advantage to matter in the long run against his crazier abilities.
That was one hell of a fight, and at least Johnny went out in a blaze of glory.
The winner is Spawn.
KO! What did I say, Wiz? Like a bitch.
With their complex power sets, this match was a puzzle to figure out, which is why we're breaking it down to 3 categories: physical stats, survivability, and their powers.
But first, let's address one thing. Could Shigaraki even see Mahito? He's an invisible curse after all.
Cursed energy and quirks are notably different, and Shigaraki wouldn't be able to see curses normally. However, even regular humans can spontaneously develop the ability to see curses in life and death scenarios. And with the Search quirk, Shigaraki would have had no problem tracking it.
So seeing Mahito wouldn't have been an issue. With that out of the way, we can jump into their stats.
This was no contest. Despite the disaster curses being able to destroy entire cities with their cursed energy, Shigaraki scaling to Deku and Bakugo meant he was calculably millions of times stronger.
He was faster too, considering he could react to light beams, while Mahito's Black Flash capped out at nearly 1,000 times the speed of sound. Nothing to scoff at, but Shiggy was thousands of times faster. Shigaraki takes stats.
But survivability was a little trickier to figure out.
Yep, in terms of raw durability, Shigaraki was a lot tougher, and his ability to generate new flesh meant that he could heal any wounds he might receive super easy.
However, Mahito is a curse, and is immune to the kind of overwhelming physical damage Shigaraki could dish out. Not only that, Mahito's regenerative ability via idle transfiguration meant that he'd come back from anything short of spiritual damage.
Considering Mahito's unique curse body, he should actually get the edge in survivability.
Which presents a crucial question. Could Shigaraki even kill a curse like Mahito in the first place?
Or would Mahito's unkillability give him the time he needed to eventually put Shiggy down with idle transfiguration?
It all comes down to their powers.
Shigaraki had a lot more variety with all of the crazy quirks All For One had collected over all the years, but none that we know of could properly kill a curse. That didn't mean idle transfiguration was a surefire bet either, though.
Of all things, Shigaraki's vestiges served as a spiritual shield from the effects of idle transfiguration. The fact that Mahito could not avoid targeting Sukuna while attacking Yuji meant that he couldn't target specific souls inside a person.
And Shiggy has hundreds of soul-like entities inside of him. Sure, each one down means he loses a quirk, but that's more than enough time to land a single hit with Decay, especially considering how much faster Shiggy is.
And Mahito has no way to defend against Shigaraki's primary quirk. Decay has affected spiritual beings in the past. Again, vestiges. In fact, he was able to damage Deku's vestige and have that damage transferred to the Deku in the real world.
Mahito may be made of spirit energy, but he still has a physical form. In fact, sorcerers that couldn't naturally target the soul were able to fight him on even footing. No reason to think Shiggy wouldn't decay him like everyone else.
Giving Shigaraki the third and final edge. It was a unique duel to the death, but Shigaraki's overwhelming might, unstoppable powers, and deadly decay spelled the end for the disaster curse.
Nothing else to say. You really gotta hand it to Shigaraki.
The winner is Tomura Shigaraki.
KO! And lo, our avenging angel has triumphed, for he is doom. Amen.
There's a lot going on here, so let's break this down, starting with physical stats. Being a genetically enhanced super soldier, you'd probably expect the Master Chief to take the edge here.
Wrong! Chief can outrun a cheetah moving 66 miles per hour. The Slayer can outrun a rocket zooming almost 8 times faster.
Master Chief can flip the 200-ton elephant platform. The Slayer can fling around these massive steel cubes, which each measure to over 400 tons.
He can take down titans with his bare hands, so it adds up. If this came down to a fist fight, he'd just punch Chief's head off.
Stats may go to the Doom Slayer, but Master Chief has one trick the Slayer can't beat: his AI.
Yeah, Vega may be God repackaged as Siri, but Cortana is clearly the more dangerous computer pal.
Cortana was designed for combat encounters and battle planning. Vega oversaw a mining facility. Granted, Vega's nothing to laugh at, but Cortana's kind of famous for hacking ancient, all-knowing technology on multiple occasions. And even if you want to argue Chief should have the weapon instead, she's still a copy of Cortana.
And when it comes to experience, Chief likely has more consistent training. Becoming a super soldier and one-man army is basically all he did since he was a child.
The Slayer may seem like a rampaging bull consumed by rage, and he is, but he was also a Marine and trained with the Night Sentinels.
And since time in hell gets wacky, he fought demons non-stop for thousands of years.
Given the sheer variety of enemies, battles, and wars Master Chief has experienced, it's a tough call, but we think fighting demons for so long tips the scale to the Slayer.
Not that it matters much, because we're on to the last and best category, arsenals. From weapons to power-ups, both Chief and the Slayer had a ton of stuff they could bring into the battle.
Both had means to turn invisible or shield themselves from damage. Both had suits that could withstand extreme heat and intense hits. And both had so many weapons.
Technically, Master Chief had a greater variety of weaponry, but when it comes to sheer destructive power, the Slayer had him beat. The Unmaker can match the Spartan laser's light speed without having to worry about charging up, and nothing on Chief's belt can match the raw power of the BFG.
Still, Master Chief did use a hardlight shield to survive a point-blank 30 megaton bomb. However, Cortana was siphoning power from the Forerunner ship they were on to make that shield, so it was a very specific circumstance not easily replicated. And it's clear that without the shield, he would have been obliterated.
Even if he could replicate it, Doomguy had the weaponry to break through. Take the Crucible.
Remember, the Crucible holds power equivalent to 157 trillion kilowatt hours, which directly converts to 90 gigatons of TNT. Even if you divided that power between the Crucible's 3 charges, a single swing from that sword is, at minimum, 1,000 times more powerful than that nuke. The Slayer gets the final nail in Arsenal, as he just had the better odds of actually taking the Chief down.
As much as Chief tried to master the situation, he was doomed. Slay, King!
The winner is the Doom Slayer.
Amen.
KO! For the guy with the snazzy sunglasses!
When both combatants possess unlimited power, it's hard to judge them by our normal standards. Take speed. Simone can hit an infinite number of targets all at once, and Kyle can fly fast enough to surpass the normal concept of speed itself.
When you control space and time, things like strength and speed kind of become irrelevant.
Instead, let's analyze them through a lens more applicable to beings as absurd as Simone and Kyle. Their imagination, their willpower, and their ultimate potential.
First up, imagination. The boundless things they could conjure to use against the other. Both could think up just about anything the other could, like absorbing each other's attacks, fighting across time, anything.
Simone did have a few attacks that Kyle hasn't encountered, like the probability-altering missiles, but it's likely Kyle could adapt considering his ring could protect against existence being erased across the multiverse.
And in general, Kyle's constructs were a lot more creative than Simone's arsenal, which was mostly drills. Though again, nothing Simone couldn't adapt to with, say, his energy absorption. Imagination is a draw.
That leaves the other main factor for both characters, the origin of their unbelievable might, their willpower.
And that's really gonna be the winning factor here, since it's the source of everything for both of them. Whoever's got the stronger willpower wins.
Both can manipulate reality on a multiversal scale with their willpower, but we can use dimensions to roughly calculate a difference. This might sound absurd for most characters,
creatures, but it's necessary for beings as beyond the pale as Simone and Kyle.
The multiverse labyrinth that Simone absorbed contained 11 spatial dimensions. That's 1.3 dimensions less than the multiverse Kyle's power can threaten.
And remember, each numbered dimension infinitely surpasses the one below it.
Which meant Kyle's willpower was stronger at a base level. However, that doesn't necessarily mean Kyle gets the edge, because if there's one thing both of these guys are known for, it's that they can always get stronger.
So to determine the limits of their willpower, we first need to understand their full potential.
Simone's whole deal with spiral power is how he can constantly evolve to get stronger. So just because Simone starts off weaker doesn't mean he'll stay that way.
Absorbing the multiverse labyrinth required Simone to leapfrog several orders of infinity in an instant. Simone made himself that much stronger through sheer force of will.
More than enough to close the gap with Kyle, especially since spiral power also lets him regenerate his body down to an informational level. Kyle's never destroyed something that thoroughly before.
Without the ability to easily kill Simone, it was only a matter of time before Kyle's ring ran low on charge. Especially since Simone could likely regenerate for at least a week straight, like Nia did. While Blue Lantern Light could boost Kyle's power, he's never jumped several orders of infinity in strength like Simone has.
And while Kyle could manipulate emotions to reduce Simone's willpower, Simone resisting the labyrinth's mental manipulation meant he could power through anything Kyle threw at him.
Everything, that is, except for the life equation. It originated from a higher level of reality and would have more than even the odds.
Too bad Kyle couldn't control it. It was just as much a detriment to him as an asset, forcing him to relinquish it to keep from destroying reality and himself.
Compare that to Simone, who merged with a version of himself writing a version of Gurren Lagann, and using spiral power to make that fiction into reality.
A pretty similar level of reality to the life equation, and a level of power Simone had no trouble embracing and mastering by the end of his story. No matter how you look at it, Simone might start weaker, but his peak will always transcend Kyle's. Isn't that how all of Simone's battles usually go anyway? That's Gurren Lagann in a nutshell.
So Simone's incredible potential eclipsed Kyle, which means his willpower was ultimately greater. Kyle may have embodied life itself, but Simone's unstoppable evolutionary potential would shatter even this lantern's light.
I hope Kyle at least dug the fight, because when it comes to death battle losers, he was a dead ringer.
The winner is Simone the Digger. Oh, thank God one of them actually died this time. I mean, no! Animal cruelty, no!
Considering coyotes eat cats, I'm not surprised.
While both Cat and Coyote were incredibly powerful, they weren't literal gods who could snap their problems away. They had limitations and weaknesses that could be exploited, especially by each other. Let's first talk their stats.
Both were strong enough to contend with universe-threatening phenomena, but comparing Wile E to Plucky Duck, Looney Tunes can not only destroy their own universe, but their animators as well.
And while Tom could move faster than light, Wile E could keep up with the Roadrunner, who could outspeed a car fast enough to travel through time. That's immeasurably fast, and much faster than Tom. Wile E gets the edge in stats.
Wile E's arsenal was a bit better too, believe it or not. Even eliminating the devices that have been shown to malfunction, he still countered everything Tom had.
The biggest being the Looney DNA Dissolver, which could render Tom's cartoony healing factor moot and end the fight.
While Tom has never been shown to have Looney DNA specifically, the concept clearly has nothing to do with actual DNA molecules.
Looney Tunes have been erased completely and still returned, so it's clearly something more fundamental to their essence.
And since the Dissolver works on any tunes, not just the Looney ones, it should apply to Tom. But considering how much of a screw-up Wile E is, it wasn't a sure bet. Hell, it could have backfired, especially considering how much more competent Tom is.
When it came to intelligence, Wile E's engineering and scheming genius were often defeated by his own ego and stubbornness. Tom, on the other hand, was consistently more flexible, pragmatic, and victorious in his fights. He definitely gets the edge there.
Oh, and Tom has one other big advantage. He doesn't have God nerfing him.
And that's the big question. Was Tom capable enough to benefit from Wile E's narrative-enforced bad luck and see the DNA Dissolver backfire against him?
That bad luck is a core part of Wile E's character as a cartoon. So let's call it his, toonliness.
To find the answer, we dug deep through the bowels of Looney Tunes lore and ended up in an unexpected place: Space Jam.
Where Wile E yet again fails against the Roadrunner, but against the villains of the movie, the Monstars, he actually scores.
And scores again in the sequel, more than anyone else. But according to Chuck Jones's rules, that shouldn't happen, right?
Throughout his entire history, Wile E's cosmically ordained failures only occur when he's specifically chasing the Roadrunner, or other tunes the plot bends around like bugs, because that's what Chuck Jones's rules were written for: Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons.
And even then, looking closely, they've been broken a few times throughout the decades, even during Chuck Jones's tenure.
Without the universe nerfing him, there's no reason to think Wile E couldn't eventually land a hit with the Looney DNA Dissolver.
Especially when the only reason it failed was because of the Roadrunner's intervention, a direct violation of Chuck Jones's limitations on the Coyote.
And especially when it's the only thing that either one had that could kill the other.
Despite lacking Wile E's narrative impediments, and despite having a better track record overall, Tom ultimately had no surefire way to kill Wile E, whereas Wile E's superior strength, speed, and looting arsenal ensured his victory.
Wile E gave one hell of a chase and left Tom Jones in for a rematch.
The winner is Wile E Coyote.
KO!
Vaya con Dios, Aranya Hoven.
Let's start by talking about their superpowers, which matched up quite evenly. Unsurprisingly, given the not-so-subtle inspiration for Deku's quirks, though they did have some edges over the other.
The Spider Sense gave Miles more insight on his surroundings and threats than Danger Sense, which has been worked around before.
This meant Miles' invisibility was harder for Danger Sense to detect when he wasn't attacking, while the Spider Sense's radar system allowed him to find Deku in a smokescreen. But Izuku's other quirks granted him advantages of his own.
Float was a lot more mobile than Webs, and Fa-Jin gave a bigger boost in strength than Venom did. Since both had some advantages and disadvantages, we're gonna call superpowers a tie.
Next up, speed. Scaling to Peter, Miles could dodge light speed attacks, which actually outpaced Izuku moving faster than that sniper bullet. Fortunately for Deku though, that wasn't his best.
Thanks to Gear Shift, Deku could speed himself up to match Miles the same way he did to the light-catching Shigaraki. Even worse for Spidey, one touch from Gear Shift could freeze him in place and make dodging totally impossible. So speed goes to Deku.
As for skill, Deku was incredibly talented at analyzing an opponent's abilities and coming up with strategies on the fly.
But Miles' powers and fighting style gave Deku few immediate openings.
Deku may have received more formal training at UA, but he was ultimately only active in hero work for a little under a year.
Meanwhile, Miles has been handling everything from neighborhood crooks to multiverse-ending gods for significantly longer.
It's close, but with his greater experience, skill goes to Miles, and that means the biggest deciding factor is raw strength.
And that was no contest. Miles absorbing the energy of that bomb was nothing to scoff at, but overwhelming power is what One For All is all about.
When Deku defeated All For One, the energy needed to part those clouds with this punch had a yield of 362 billion tons of TNT, smashing the bomb Miles absorbed out of the water.
But it wasn't as simple as that. Miles is wearing a vibranium suit after all, so the question wasn't necessarily who was stronger, it was if Miles' suit was tough enough to continuously absorb Deku's blows.
When the Falcon protected New York from that city-destroying blast, it had a yield of 546 megatons. Impressive, but Deku defeating All For One was still over 600 times stronger than vibranium's limit.
And Deku did that with One For All's embers, not the full package.
And remember, the vibranium in Miles' suit was much thinner than what Falcon and Black Panther had, making it unlikely it could absorb as strong of a blast.
It's there to provide more protection, sure, but there was no way it could survive all of what Deku could dish out.
In this superpower battle, it was Izuku's overwhelming speed and immense strength that made him the winning hero.
And the morales of the story is...
The winner is Deku.
KO!
Okay, run this by me. What happened?
It's complicated, so let's break this down into 3 categories. First up, power. Most versions of Godzilla can shrug off black holes and extinction level events, tag beyond light speed foes like Gigan, blow up planets, However, the Hulk is beyond that.
The big guy clapped a universe to bits and shook the infinite dimensions linked to the crossroads. In a straight fight with a classic Godzilla, 616 Hulk smashes the power advantage.
But factoring in Ultima changes things. The entity sees all of space-time and can manipulate its results at a whim. No matter how strong the Hulk got, Ultima could potentially negate it.
But Hulk broke chains made of the first firmament, which could overwhelm eternity.
An abstract concept of a being not entirely unlike Ultima's entity.
Even a small piece of the first firmament could break the multiverse. Plus, Hulk kept up with Odin Force Thor, who is also on a celestial level of power.
So the gap in power becomes nebulous. Still, unless Hulk could remove Ultima from the equation, neither held a clear advantage in power and stats.
Especially when you look at their immortality.
This was practically a never-ending death loop. Even with their healing factors, both could technically kill each other, but then just come right back.
The green door instantly appears when Hulk goes to the below place, and the higher dimensional entity could always summon a replacement Godzilla avatar. So both Hulk and Godzilla could not stay dead.
Unless they could somehow prevent what was happening in those other dimensions. So let's examine the layers of their multiverses. Marvel's cosmos has infinite higher dimensions, which themselves are transcended by the astral plane, the superflow, and so on until you reach the House of Ideas, the domain of the one above all.
Since the one below all mirrors the one above all, the below place mirrors the House of Ideas. Get it?
In comparison, the cosmos of Godzilla's multiverse is just as vast and infinite, but does not have the same sort of transcending layers above and below. This means the below place, the Hulk's respawn point and source of power, is out of the entity's reach.
So the real question is, if they both can't die and Ultima's entity can't affect the below place, could Hulk somehow stop the entity before it destroyed the universe?
It all comes down to Gamma and Archetype. Ultima was defeated in the anime by using a trans-temporal superdimension calculator operating at infinite speeds to activate the orthogonal diagonalizer, turning Archetype against itself.
Ultima endlessly spews this stuff, so there's plenty to work with. And Hulk can reach into comic book gutter space, so he should be able to reach through a singular point. But that's not enough.
Fortunately for Hulk, it just so happens he knows someone who, like scientists who have defeated Godzilla in the past, is an expert on particles from a greater dimension that mutate reality beyond our understanding.
Who made a device with those particles that breaks space-time, like the diagonalizer? Who made a supercomputer that scanned the infinite multiverse with the speed of a hypermind, like the dimension calculator? Hell, the guy made an interstellar radio out of sticks and stones in a matter of days, and even built an ultimate nullifier. It's like he was made for this.
The green door waits for no Hulk, including Banner. Even if Ultima's catastrophe destroyed the universe, the door could deposit Banner in a different universe and he could continue the fight.
He had all the time in the infinite multiverse.
There was only one way this could end, and only one person who could make it so.
Even among gods and monsters, man was the ultimate weapon.
The winner is Bruce Banner.
Rest in peace, Ruby. But hey, it's not often you get to see scythe-on-scythe action like that.
Let's break this down with the 4 categories that best represent this matchup. First, strength.
Or a supercharged Ruby's strength way higher than you'd think, like kicking this grim through steel. But Maka's soul resonance could match Gopher, who destroyed mountains.
Now, Team Ruby did defeat Vine, whose aura contained a bomb that could have wiped out a city.
Adding up their flight speed and how far Harriet said they'd have to fly to avoid the blast, that's a 366 kiloton bomb.
It's possible Ruby's own aura possesses a similar level of, say, energy strength, though her semblance obviously can't replicate what Vine did.
Black Blood Maka got blasted by Asura into the moon. Yeah, it's small, but its mass is the same as Earth's, right?
Putting Asura's strikes at 2 quadrillion tons of TNT, over 5 billion times higher than Vine.
So, Maka takes strength, but speed wasn't as clear-cut. Ruby's a fast little gal. Maka kept up with Blackstar, faster than Shadows and whatnot, but as they improved their skills, Ruby and her friends could outspeed Atom,
who blocked a particle beam. Though given the distance and time to react, Atom moved about 42% the speed of light. Not quite faster than your own Shadow territory. Still, Ruby's Petal Burst has become far faster than this over time, and clearly gives more than a 2-time speed increase on top of that 42%, making her well past light speed.
Definitely enough to take on Harriet, who was all about speed. angry speed.
This isn't to say Maka couldn't keep up thanks to Soul Resonance, but Petal Burst makes this comparison close enough to call it a tie. And their speed would be key to winning in skill.
Come on, Wiz. Call it what it really is. It's Scythery.
That's not a word.
Maka's Scythery was pretty good, but Soul does all the movement for her. As a Meister, she was mostly a guide.
It's easy to assume that Ruby's, Scythery was superior. She's entirely self-sufficient at dancing with her weapon.
Soul's own control is still a factor here, but it doesn't change that Ruby's been swinging that thing for way longer than Maka. Ruby's got Scythery in the bag.
Perhaps this edge would be enough for Ruby to avoid Maka's far greater strength if she had the better powers.
So, Aura's really cool. Barriers, healing, superpowers, and so on. But it's got one big weakness.
It is a finite resource that is required for all of Ruby's powers.
Petal Burst, activating Dust, even powering up Crescent Rose takes juice and some aura. Once it's gone, Ruby's totally vulnerable.
And there's a second key factor regarding aura. It is specifically a manifestation of Ruby's soul.
And Maka's powers are all about taking on souls. Maka had lots of ways to break through Ruby's aura, like Soul Adagio.
And since Maka is exceptionally gifted at examining souls, she could definitely figure out how aura works.
But plot twist, what about Ruby's silver eyes? Her anti-grim eye beams? Turns out they were actually her best secret weapon.
The negative power of Grim is quite similar to Madness wavelengths, which power Black Blood. Since anti-demon wavelengths can cancel out Black Blood, the silver eyes should achieve a similar effect.
But Maka and Soul's whole story is about reaching that perfect soul resonance. Asura tried every way in the book and more to separate their wavelengths and failed. And we already talked about how much stronger he is than Ruby. Maka takes powers, cause when she rose to the occasion, Ruby didn't stand a semblance of a chance and bit the dust.
The winners are Maka Albarn and Soul Evans.
Wait, his name is Soul Evans?
KO!
To be Blade tenued no longer. I'm surprised. I figured with Blade's many years of comic book history, he'd have the edge.
Believe it or not, Buffy is actually in more comics than Blade.
Really? Man, Blade can't catch a break.
Let's break this down into 4 categories. First up, stats. Buffy's lifted much heavier things and survived more significant explosions.
Like, sure, Blade's strong and all, but he isn't literally fucking buildings apart like Buffy.
Scaling to the monsters they fought, compare Dracula creating a storm that covered Boston to the Sorrow Demon creating a storm that covered Los Angeles, a city over 5 times larger. You might be able to compare Blade to Spider-Man like Miles, who absorbed a bomb that could blow up Harlem, but that's significantly weaker than Whistler containing a blast that could wipe out London. They could both dodge light beams, but that doesn't keep Buffy from taking the overall edge in stats.
Blade's used to being the odd man out though, so his versatility is just as important.
With Blade's numerous powers and massive arsenal, he certainly could have overwhelmed the more straightforward Buffy.
Machine guns and magic swords are generally gonna beat out crossbows and morning stars. Not to mention, he actually wears armor.
Also, Blade's faster healing factor and immunity to traditional vampire weaknesses kept Buffy on the back foot for a time. Blade wins versatility.
But when it comes to skill, Buffy's got plenty of experience fighting armed opponents barehanded.
Both of them were masters of a similar number of martial arts.
And Blade has been kicking vampire ass for a century, way longer than Buffy's even been alive.
While Blade may have more personal experience, Buffy's ability to draw on Slayer battles dating back to the Stone Age, at least 40 times older than Blade, gives her the superior skill. Even then, they both had weapons and abilities so powerful they could end the fight instantly, regardless of all else.
They're trump cards. Fortunately for Buffy, she actually countered almost all of what Blade could throw at her.
Withstanding Blade draining her energy with his bite? Check.
Resisting the Hellfire shotgun destroying her soul? Check.
Preventing Blade turning to mist and exploding her from the inside out? Check.
Meanwhile, Blade had no way to survive, say, Buffy's Gorgon venom turning him to stone.
And even with the deadly and just plain gross breathing gun, Blade did not have anything as potent as the Slayer Sight. It could easily deflect the breathing gun's bullets back at him, or use its space-cutting ability to slice through his unbreakable adamantium sword.
Don't believe us? Even Wolverine's adamantium skeleton was cut in half when a portal closed on top of him. That's the same kind of thing.
And Wolverine's beta adamantium skeleton is a much tougher
version of the same metal.
Oh, and since the Scythe could kill Silas, a multiverse-devouring god, I think it could take down Blade with a big enough swing.
Giving Buffy the final advantage over the Daywalker.
Really thought Blade had a chance, but Buffy sure put a damn fear on things.
The winner is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, that was a whole nother level of close, but I think we got the point.
This was not an easy call to make. Dante and Clive matched each other so closely it was hard finding a definitive advantage either had. This is best explained through 3 categories, starting with stats.
Both Dante and Clive could easily beat up universe-busting threats.
Mundus and Ultimalius could create universes at a whim, and Dante and Clive defeated them sans their own super forms. Dante and Clive could both consistently intercept lasers at faster-than-light speeds.
And Dante could always amp up with demon juice to briefly outspeed Clive anyway.
But Clive could match that by boosting his own speed and reflexes through precision dodge. Both were so beyond the pale that neither could definitively overpower the other.
Still, given their crazy powers, you'd think one of their abilities would break the deadlock.
Not so much. Dante and Clive could generally match each other blow for blow, be it to teleport, slow down time, flash freeze the other, block and absorb hits, etc.
And Dante could survive the intense flames of Ifrit. He's dealt with heat like that before.
Though Clive did not have a perfect match against Doppelganger, he did have more methods of manipulating time, both more reliable and abusable, in addition to defensive measures like Ifrit's barrier to fall back on to outlast powers like Doppelganger.
But their super forms evened out. Any edge Clive could get from, say, Limit Break or Ifrit Risen, Dante could match with Devil Trigger or Sin Devil Trigger.
In the end, both have answers to most of each other's powers, making it still anyone's win.
Which is why it came down to one major factor: endurance. Just how long could these two keep at it?
While Dante's super forms could undoubtedly keep up with Clive's, there is an emphasis in story and gameplay that they expend a lot of demonic energy.
The longest Dante has battled in Devil Trigger against someone his equal is about 6 minutes, and abilities like Doppelganger, Quicksilver, and Sin Devil Trigger burn through it even faster.
Clive's time in Ifrit Risen isn't limitless either, but it can last longer, fighting for tens of minutes if necessary. But given how close this match is, it's vital. If Ifrit Risen catches Dante outside of Devil Trigger, it's over.
I know what you're thinking. Dante's crazy tough. His healing factor's way better than Clive's. Clive can regen lost limbs, sure, but Dante can heal from getting reduced to a puddle. Couldn't he just tank Ifrit's attacks?
Well, yes, but also no. This is where context is everything. While no doubt impressive, Dante's healing has been overcome in the past because it is tied to how much energy he has. Less demonic energy means a less potent healing factor.
Like when he got knocked out for a month straight by Urizen, only surviving thanks to a constant source of demon blood. Hell, overtaxing demon regen is how Dante killed Virgil in the first place.
Even if we assume Dante could get a second wind, it's always possible Clive could get one too, becoming even stronger from pure willpower, just like when he fought Ultimalius.
So, for as tough and persistent as Dante was, Clive was able to endure just that much more to get the final edge. The devil was in the details, but Clive's victory is no fantasy.
The winner is Clive Rossfield.
Oh, my childhood. Whiz, quick, I need your tears. We can save him.
There's a lot to this, so let's break it down by experience, strategy, and monsters. Starting with experience. Both Ash and Yugi have risen to the top, beating the best of the best, and traveled all over the world.
But Ash traveled more, was in more tourneys, and saved the world way more often. And despite what people say, he wins a lot.
Even Atem's stint as the Pharaoh doesn't tip the scale since he wasn't in charge for very long. Plus, Pokemon evolve over time, literally and figuratively. While Yugi's deck is obviously adjustable, the cards are unchanging, unable to grow like Ash's Pokemon.
So Ash wins in experience, but when it comes to strategy, he's a wild card.
He's skilled at improvisation and using the environment to win. Even machines cannot comprehend his tactics.
But the same goes for Yugi. Gotta remember, Yugi and Atem's teamwork is second to none. They're masters at exploiting weaknesses, setting up tricks, and surprising foes with so-called weak cards.
Both could likely adjust to each other's unpredictability, so a Dark Horse-style win was unlikely.
But Ash's secret weapon is his bond with his Pokemon, boosting their power. I'm not just talking about Pikachu. His power of friendship invented an evolution for Greninja. That's crazy. Ash's trust in his Pokemon knows no limits.
Silly as it may sound, Yugi trusts his deck in the same way. The heart of the cards is real, and Yugi is determined to support his monsters with spells, traps, and buffs. Look at his duels with Merrick and Paradox, where he bolstered his weaker cards to take down gods. With Ba and Ka, his bonds with his cards manifest them into reality, not so dissimilar from Ash Greninja.
Yeah, Ash has aura, but he never mastered it. And specialties like Mega Evolution and Gigantamax, while awesome, only work with specific Pokemon.
And since Ash focuses on offense far more than support, Yugi could control the pace of the fight with cards like Swords of Revealing Light and Magic Cylinder.
But I know some of you are asking, what if Ash threw hands? The kid's strong enough to chuck trees and lift baby gods. Just punch him, man. Well, Yugi's similarly tough, and the Millennium Puzzle can make shields, steal ghosts, cast illusions, and mess with minds. If Ash actually tried to punch him, it'd be Mewtwo all over again.
It's a close call, but Yugi takes the edge in strategy.
So it all comes down to the monsters. Yugi had a slightly larger pool of monsters, but Ash's can clear out island-wide storms, fight terraforming beasts, and are stronger than the black hole summoning Gardevoir.
However, Yugi's can rain down meteors, compete with larger black holes, and even the mid-tiers scale to Glow Neos, destroying that relativity field with a universe. And Herakti created Yu-Gi-Oh's whole multiverse, surpassing even Solgaleo's Sunsteel Strike and Dialga's Roar of Time.
And Yugi had more than just monsters on the field. Ash's strength was also his weakness. His power was evenly spread, reliant only on his remaining Pokemon.
If Mr. Mime faints, no more Psychic Barriers. If he lost Lucario, no more Mega Evolution, and so on. The longer the battle went, the less Pokemon Ash had, and he did not have a reliable way to bring them back. He doesn't carry revives on him, and even then, reviving Pokemon in the anime is entirely different from the games. Meanwhile, Yugi had cards like Mirage Ruler and Monster Reborn that could instantly recall powers he's lost.
And he can, bend fate to draw whatever card he wants. And we didn't even cover them all. Really, Yugi's deck has no pathetic cards.
Exactly. Yugi's versatility and power swept Ash's options, giving his monsters the lead. He just needed the right moment to knock Ash stone cold.
That was a good attempt at a pun, Wiz. You might not think it's Pharaoh, but Ash got Yugi owned.
The winner is Yugi Moto.